This evening, we turn our attention to a developing story that has attracted strong interest both inside Nigeria and across the Sahel region. Intelligence agencies from Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are reported to be preparing to release the names of senior Nigerian politicians whom they allege have been involved in supporting bandit groups operating in Nigeria's northwest. According to security analyst Agazola Mokama, investigations in these Sahel states have traced financial flows and arms procurement networks that link back to Nigeria. These findings, according to him, are the result of seized communications, intercepted weapons, and recent arrest of gunrunners along the borders. While these are still allegations, the reports, if substantiated, carry implications that cannot be ignored. The Sahel states, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, have, in recent months, taken bold political steps to demonstrate independence in matters of security and governance. Their decision to speak publicly about alleged Nigerian involvement in cross-border banditry must therefore be viewed against the backdrop of this new posture. It is not only about insecurity within Nigeria, but about the wider regional crisis that has destabilized entire communities across West Africa. Banditry in Nigeria's northwest is not a minor security challenge. For more than a decade, thousands of lives have been lost, schools have been shut down due to abductions, and farmers have abandoned farmlands because of repeated attacks. The economic cost runs into billions of naira, and the humanitarian toll is incalculable. That is why the claim that powerful individuals may be fueling this violence is both alarming and deeply consequential. If indeed senior politicians have been implicated, then several critical questions arise. How have these networks been able to operate for so long without detection? Were warnings overlooked? And most importantly, how much of Nigeria's difficulty in ending banditry is linked not to the strength of the criminals themselves, but to the protection they allegedly receive from political sponsors? It is important to be precise, no names have yet been released, and no Nigerian court has declared anyone guilty of such offenses. What exists at this stage are allegations and intelligence reports, largely cited by Sahel agencies and reinforced by analysts who have observed patterns of arms trafficking and suspicious financial flows. Still, the seriousness of the claims means they cannot be dismissed. Nigerians are justified in demanding transparency, accountability, and an official response from their government. If, as the Sahel countries say, evidence exists of Nigerian politicians colluding with bandit leaders, the consequences could be far-reaching. It would not only demand criminal prosecution but could also alter Nigeria's political landscape. Trust in institutions is already fragile, and confirmation of such betrayal would deepen public skepticism toward the political class. At the same time, one must also recognize the possibility of political motivations behind these announcements. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are currently repositioning themselves on the global stage. They have exited some international treaties, recalibrated alliances, and projected an image of sovereignty in regional security. By announcing investigations into Nigerian politicians, they may also be sending a message that their intelligence services are capable and that they will no longer remain silent about external actors contributing to insecurity in their territories. For Nigeria, the options are limited but clear. The government in Abuja will need to respond swiftly once the claims are formalized. Silence will only fuel speculation. A strong denial, if that is the case, must be backed with facts. An acceptance that investigations are necessary must be followed by genuine action, not rhetoric. The Nigerian people will expect nothing less than accountability if evidence exists. Beyond the political implications, there is the regional security dimension. Nigeria cannot afford to treat insecurity as a purely domestic affair. The reality is that porous borders, ungoverned spaces, and transnational crime networks mean that the violence in Zamfara or Kaduna has direct linkages to markets in Niger, Mali, or Burkina Faso. In fact, reports suggest that some of the weapons used by Nigerian bandits are procured from black markets in the Sahel, where weak state control and decades of insurgency have created fertile ground for illegal arms trading. This is why collaboration among West African states is critical. Intelligence sharing, border patrols, and coordinated operations remain essential. If Sahel countries are indeed ready to present their evidence, Nigeria should not see it as an embarrassment but as an opportunity to clean its own house and strengthen cross-border cooperation. Let us also not lose sight of the human angle. Behind these geopolitical maneuvers and allegations are millions of Nigerians living in fear every single day. Communities in Zamfara, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Katsina have been displaced repeatedly. Schools in rural areas remain shut because parents are afraid of sending their children to classrooms where abductions may occur. Farmers, who form the backbone of local economies, cannot plant or harvest freely. These are not statistics, they are daily realities. For those citizens, it matters little whether the perpetrators are common criminals or political actors. What matters is peace, security, and the restoration of their livelihoods. If exposing political sponsors is a necessary step towards achieving that peace, then such exposure should be welcomed. But it must also be followed by credible prosecutions. Anything less would be another disappointment to citizens who have already endured too much. This unfolding story also challenges Nigeria's democracy. If politicians are found to be complicit in funding or arming criminal groups, it will reveal a dangerous contradiction: leaders who are sworn to protect lives and property actively undermining that oath. Such a revelation would not only tarnish reputations but would strike at the moral foundation of governance. Nigerians will be watching closely to see whether institutions are strong enough to hold even the most powerful individuals accountable. And so, the nation waits: will the Sahel states release these names? If they do, how will Abuja respond? Will there be denials, arrests, or simply silence? For now, what exists are allegations. But the implications are already clear. When we look closely at the timing of these reports, it becomes clear that the issue is larger than just allegations. Over the past 2 years, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have undergone significant political changes, with military-led governments asserting themselves in ways that challenge traditional regional alignments. These governments are eager to demonstrate their effectiveness, especially in tackling insecurity that has plagued their populations for more than a decade. By announcing investigations that allegedly implicate Nigerian actors, they position themselves as strong defenders of their people. But for Nigeria, this is a sensitive situation. It places the country under the microscope and compels its leaders to demonstrate integrity. The international community, already concerned about instability in the Sahel, will also pay close attention. Domestically, these reports will resonate strongly. Nigerians have long suspected that insecurity persists not simply because of weak capacity, but because some individuals in positions of authority may be benefiting from the chaos. While these have often remained in the realm of speculation, this development from the Sahel threatens to move suspicion into the domain of documented intelligence. If names are published, Nigerians will demand concrete action, not merely statements. The fight against banditry has consumed enormous national resources. Military operations such as Operation Hadrin Doji and Operation Thunder Strike have been launched repeatedly. Billions of naira have been budgeted for weapons, logistics, and troop deployment. Yet, results have been mixed. Villages continue to report attacks. Highways remain unsafe. Families still pay ransom for loved ones. If behind this continued violence lies the hand of political sponsors, then the problem is not simply a security challenge but a governance crisis. It raises a fundamental question: can Nigeria truly defeat banditry if elements within its leadership are compromised? At this point, let us briefly consider what may happen if these names are revealed. First, there could be political shockwaves. Individuals in positions of influence may find their reputations irreparably damaged. Second, there may be legal consequences, though that would depend on Nigeria's willingness to pursue cases vigorously. Third, there could be diplomatic consequences, as Nigeria will need to manage its relations with these Sahel states, balancing the need to protect national dignity with the duty to investigate the allegations. Beyond Nigeria's borders, this development could also reshape regional cooperation. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has been grappling with how to address insecurity in the region, even as some Sahel states drift away from its framework. If Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso move ahead with releasing evidence against Nigerian actors, they could weaken Nigeria's standing as a regional leader. This is a prospect Abuja will be keen to avoid. It is also important to reflect on what this means for ordinary Nigerians. When citizens hear that politicians, those entrusted with their safety, may be funding the very criminals who terrorize them, the result is anger, disillusionment, and a loss of faith in governance. Nigeria's democracy, still consolidating after more than 2 decades, cannot afford such an erosion of trust. However, this crisis also offers an opportunity. If the Nigerian state acts decisively, investigates thoroughly, and prosecutes any guilty parties, it could restore some of that lost confidence. It would send a clear message that no one, regardless of status, is above the law. It would demonstrate that Nigeria can rise to meet its greatest challenges with integrity. We must also consider the humanitarian cost. According to several reports, including those by international organizations, thousands of Nigerians in the Northwest live in internally displaced persons camps, with little access to food, education, or healthcare. These are people whose lives have been upended by insecurity. For them, this story is not just about allegations and politics, it is about survival. They are the ones paying the price for the actions of criminals and, if the intelligence reports are accurate, for the actions of those in positions of power who enable criminality. This is why accountability matters. Because accountability is not abstract. It is directly connected to the ability of a child to go to school without fear, to the ability of a farmer to cultivate his land, and to the ability of a trader to travel freely without being ambushed. If Nigeria takes this opportunity seriously, the outcome could be a turning point in the battle against insecurity. Let me also stress that the credibility of the Sahel states is on the line as well. If they release names, they must be ready to back those claims with verifiable evidence. Otherwise, the announcement will be seen as political theater. But if they present real proof, it could become a defining moment in the region's fight against insecurity. This story is still developing, and we must be careful not to draw conclusions before facts are established. Yet, the seriousness of the claims compels attention, both from the government and from the Nigerian people. As this matter develops, it is crucial to situate it within the broader reality of governance in Nigeria. Allegations of elite complicity in insecurity are not entirely new. For years, civil society groups, journalists, and ordinary citizens have raised suspicions that the networks of kidnapping, cattle rustling, and arms trafficking in the Northwest cannot operate on such a scale without powerful backers. What makes this moment distinct, however, is that external intelligence agencies, from neighboring Sahel countries, appear ready to go on record. That shift transforms what might have remained speculation into an international issue. The Nigerian government now faces two immediate imperatives. First, it must reassure its citizens that their safety remains paramount. Public confidence is already strained, silence or dismissal would only deepen anxiety. Second, the government must engage with the Sahel states diplomatically, seeking to examine the evidence and, where appropriate, pursuing investigations at home. Ignoring the claims would be costly, both for national security and for Nigeria's regional reputation. It is worth stressing the regional implications. Insecurity in Nigeria's northwest is not confined to its borders. The movement of bandits, the trafficking of arms, and the smuggling of goods all cross frontiers. Villages in Niger Republic, for instance, have also suffered attacks linked to networks that operate across the Nigerian border. The same is true in Mali and Burkina Faso. This is why the Sahel state political careers may be ended overnight. And more broadly, the electorate may grow more vocal in demanding accountability at all levels of government. But this will only happen if the revelations are handled transparently. If the process is politicized, or if accountability is selective, Nigerians will interpret it as business as usual. That outcome would further corrode trust and allow insecurity to persist. In the wider international context, Nigeria's response will also shape its reputation. The country has long presented itself as a regional leader, committed to peace and stability in West Africa. If it fails to address such serious allegations at home, its credibility in advocating for security abroad will be weakened. Conversely, a firm and principled response could strengthen Nigeria's standing as a country willing to confront difficult truths for the sake of its people. Ultimately, what lies at the heart of this story is the struggle for Nigeria's future. A nation cannot flourish if violence remains unchecked. A democracy cannot thrive if those in leadership are implicated in the suffering of their own citizens. The battle against banditry is therefore not only a military campaign, it is a moral and political one. It is about whether Nigeria will allow criminality to define its governance, or whether it will summon the courage to confront it, no matter who is involved. As we await further developments, one fact is clear: Nigerians deserve the truth. They deserve to know who is behind the violence that has ravaged their communities. They deserve to see justice applied without fear or favor. And they deserve a government that acts in their interest, not in the interest of those who profit from insecurity. The coming weeks will be decisive. If the Sahel states follow through on their pledge to release names, and if the evidence is compelling, then Nigeria will face a critical test. Will the allegations be swept aside, or will they mark the beginning of a genuine effort to dismantle the networks that sustain insecurity in the Northwest? For the sake of the countless Nigerians whose lives hang in the balance, one can only hope it is the latter. Because the cost of inaction is measured not just in statistics, but in lives lost, futures destroyed, and trust betrayed. This is the reality. And it is a moment that Nigeria must confront with seriousness, transparency, and resolve. This is the big gist today. We will continue to follow this story closely here on Post Niger News. And as more details come out, we will bring them to you immediately. So please, don't just watch and go. Subscribe now, so that you won't miss the next update. Like the video too, so that more Nigerians can join this conversation. Thank you for staying with me for this long gist. Drop your comments below. What do you think will happen if the names are published? Let's talk in the comment section. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and stay informed.